O fruit, blessed above all others, good before, in the middle, and after the meal, but perfect behind. I'm afraid this video might be a result of overinterpretation, but I can't help wondering why in the back of my mind I find fruit sexy. Is it because they are inherently so, or because I've been taught to consider them sexy? Well, to probe whether this has a long history or is of a rather recent date, I decided to browse the interwebs. First search answered my question a bit too hastily, I would say. The results are explicit in a way you don't like to see, and they are objectifying too, honestly, to both fruit and women. And this combination is a bit hard to swallow. Whoever conceived these pornographic pictures of fruit has went a bit too far in some cases. I mean, what? That's a threesome? Oh my god. Okay. In the past year, I became very interested in different visual artists making still life photographs of fruit, and the more I looked, the more I found. Instagram is the place for still lives of fruit, and I would argue the perfect arena of fetishized depictions of fruit. The few Instagram pages I follow display these lavish and studied fruit arrangements, and they are so well conceived that I feel they must carry meaning invisible at first glance. But then I remembered too. Didn't I see some nasty fruit depictions in my Renaissance class too? Hello everyone, this is Wana, and I am an art historian, a cultural historian who occasionally gets into a research binge that lasts a couple of afternoons about certain subjects and ends up producing bi-monthly videos about those subjects. Is it self-conceited to talk about myself in the third person? Hope not. In this video, I will try to talk about fruit and sex and how they went hand in hand throughout art history, and how this association is, I think, still quite prevalent in still life. Trying not to contradict what I just said earlier about things not emerging overnight, I will add that some meanings or some uses of different motifs do change overnight, and under different social conditions, artists are pressured to express themselves less explicitly in concern to some hot topics such as sex, and in the case of fruit, this social factor that changed the way sexual intercourse could be represented in art was religious censorship. However, despite the Counter-Reformation Catholic censorship that was very active in the 16th and 17th century, Caravaggio, an artist that worked mostly in Rome, was still able to produce the first fully fledged erotic still life in 1605, and it is considered to be the first intentional such still life that bears explicit erotic references. And some art historians also say that this is, oh, hi. And some art historians also point out the fact that this painting may be one of the places in which Caravaggio expresses his homoerotic preferences. And I think in the same vein, Bakino Malato and Nabu here. No, Nabu is not part of the story. And Boy with a basket of fruit, whatever it's called, aim at the same kind of message that he liked men and his sexual desires also went really good with fruit. And yeah, that's how we have these paintings. And if you ask me, there are several other paintings of Caravaggio that point at the same thing, but yeah, we can be prudish and only consider these three to be indicative of this fact. But before 1605, there have been other attempts, and such is the case of Giovanni da Udine's sumptuous garland of fruit, flowers, and vegetables, because vegetables are also involved in this dirty history, which is to be found in the Loggia di Psiche in, I think, Villa Farnese now called, which was commissioned, like the large fresco was commissioned by a very rich and affluent man in Rome who wanted some mythological stories on his roof, and who also probably wanted a bit of, fun to show to his visitors. And even since the time the fresco was painted in the 16th century, people have noticed that detail, which is not just two innocent vegetable elements casually standing there, but they're doing something. And this brings me to the fact that some vegetables and fruit have always had fixed connotations in relation to sex, and such is the fig or the squash or the pomegranate or the apple, because that's the root of sin, or the medlar, which apparently was associated with sexual work, because the fruit is only ready to be eaten after it's half rotten or fermented, and this had like very moral connotations to what carnal pleasures do to you, your soul and your body. And this is so distracting. And even though this taste for metaphorical or allegorical sexual representations has been developed and matured in intellectual elites in Italy, the genre of still lives has been brought to fruition someplace else, namely in the Low Countries. As a conclusion, I would say that the historical association between fruit and sex has probably had sort of a double origin. And on the one hand, it is probably the product of the artist's need to transmit hidden and provocative stories to the viewer by a sort of visual codification that would evade the rather linear censorship of different agents, be them religious in the 16th, 18th century and political later in history. And on the other hand, it may also probably be a fruit of this need of intellectuals of enjoying erotic messages, but conveyed via a more inaccessible means of expression, and the permanence of both these things, censorship and such intellectual taste for allegorical artistic expression, has made this genre a very pervasive genre throughout history. And I think It is also a very contemporary problem, since on social media nowadays there is increasing censorship of whatever is considered to be sexually explicit content, and maybe artists that would otherwise choose very explicit or unambiguous visual forms now choose to go back to this kind of evasive and metaphorical avenues. And I don't know, even if it's not like that, and we consider the very enduring connotations that fruit have had throughout history, because fruit do not only delight sight, but they also make use of other sensorial experiences such as taste or touch or smell. So I guess fetishized fruit are here to stay, but we should pay close attention to contemporary discussions regarding objectification and all that, and avoid the objectification of women via fruit, so as to not perpetuate different systematic misogynistic practices in this poor human world. Okay, people, thanks for watching, and I hope I will see you again. Maybe Nabu will also co-star in other videos that I will hopefully film in the near future, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.